Hello amazing beautiful beings, this is Milena. Today's video is going to be about our guides and our non-physical entourage. I have been nudged to talk about this for a few weeks now, and I have finally accepted the nudge and decided to do it. And if you're here, if you were guided to watch this video for one reason or another, you could probably be sure that your non-physical entourage has something to do with that. There are a lot of misconceptions about our guides. Who are they? What do they look like? What can they do? How can we contact them? Is it only good information? Do they have our best interests at heart? We are going to address all of those things. What kinds of things can we contact them about? So on and so forth. But one of the very first things, and the good news of the day, is that your non-physical support system, your guides, are always in communication with you, whether you're aware of it or not. Whether you believe they exist or not, they still communicate with you. You have probably felt intuitive nudges or intuitive sense of something. You felt an inkling to do something. You felt a little nudge. You felt like something was speaking to you. On many occasions, when that happens, this is the doing of a member of your non-physical entourage. You know how sometimes we feel alone, we feel like we're not supported, nobody understands us, we're kind of on our own. We even have sayings that say you come alone, or a person comes alone to this earth and you leave alone. But actually none of those things are true. We weren't so stupid when we came onto this planet to be completely disconnected, although we created that illusion for ourselves. We have a pretty big and strong support system, especially in the face of our non-physical entourage, that is always with us, holds that expanded perspective for us, and does communicate with us, sends us messages. And speaking of that, how are those messages delivered? Well, in many different ways. There are no limits to that, and our entourage can get really creative in the way that they deliver the messages. It could be a sentence that jumps out at you from a book that you're reading, or an article that you're scrolling through on social media, for example, a billboard while you're driving. It could be a sentence that you hear over and over again when you're watching a movie, when you're talking to friends. Some topics might be randomly brought up by a number of different people within the same day, for example. And this is when you know that a message is really trying to be delivered to you. But sometimes we don't really listen. And this is one of the reasons why I think I was inspired to record this video, is so that we learn how to listen better and to make this communication easier, clearer, and more efficient. Why? Because it helps us. One thing that makes the communication with our guides clearer is establishing a language. Usually they use your own symbolic system. If gold, for example, means wealth to you, they're going to communicate in that way. If a feather means, I don't know, your spirit guides are here and you're all supported, then they'll use that in order to let you know that you're supported at times when you question this, for example. So if you establish that language clearly, you can even write it down. They would be more than happy to follow this symbolic system in order to communicate with you more effectively, because that's one of their main goals. Can you use a meditation to connect to your guides more consciously and deliberately? Absolutely. I personally love the meditation from Inelia Benz from one of her classes, and I can put the link for it below if you'd like to test and use it too. I have had huge success with this meditation. It's super fun to do, and it does help ease the process of connecting to your guides. I have used a number of other ways to communicate with them as well. Sometimes they will use other people as conduits, somebody who's open to receive the information and agrees and is willing at some level to deliver it to you. I have personally played this role on a number of occasions. Some people's entourage and guides will ask them to contact them and deliver a sentence or a certain piece of information. Sometimes it's been weird, to be honest, really, at 11:30, and it's a person who I really don't know well. You don't think that would be a little strange and random? Oh, I just contact them and tell them this sentence. Sometimes I've agreed to do it and some interesting conversations have come out of it. Sometimes I haven't. And again, it's up to us to set those boundaries and to say when and if we're willing to do this, and be clear on the conditions that you put in. I want to be supported, or this can happen only Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday between these hours, for example. How do I know that the information that I'm nudged to deliver to someone is not coming from me but from their entourage? It's a sense, it's a knowing, it's a feeling, and very often it's information that I couldn't have on my own because I don't even know them very well, and it feels very strong, very specific, and it feels somehow very relevant to their life without me knowing exactly how and why. And the more I have done it, the more I have then seen in some cases why this could be relevant, because then we've had some conversation about these things. One of the reasons I don't advertise that fact though is because we sometimes, it's a trap, and we sometimes tend to give our power away. Oh, can you connect with my guides and ask them if I'm going to pass the exam, if I'm going to be successful with this, if I should leave this job, if my relative is going to die of cancer in transition or they're going to heal themselves. Can you tell me if I'm going to have a baby? Can you ask my guides to help me with these? And that means giving our power away. First, because we're not using ways to learn how we ourselves can connect with our guides. We're giving our power away to another person who, might, to a degree, twist the information through their own programs and beliefs and all of that. It might not be a very, very clean and clear delivery. Second, we outsource our decisions to our guides and our entourage and our future. Well, whatever we create is what is going to happen. We also give our power away when we don't understand that if certain relatives decide to transition, that's their own higher self's choice, for example. And maybe we're making the choice not to know this information up until the very end because there's certain things that we want to experience. You can connect with your guides. You can establish that communication system. You can start getting this information yourself, because that is way, way, way more empowering. And that leads me to one of the most important myths that we have about our guides, is that they know better than us. Yes, they do have an expanded perspective. They have a lot of information that we might not have from this shrunken state of awareness that we have momentarily maybe in our lives. They do have a general idea of the flow of our life and some of the plans that we had before we came here, although we can always change our mind. And they have a sense of when we veer off course, so to speak. And that's when they try to deliver this information to help us stay on track, to help us stay on course. But ultimately, the decision about what to do and with this information, whether to take the advice or not, is ours, because it's our experience. And they don't have that literally physical sensation and experience, all of the emotions that we have here. So ultimately, it is our decision. They're also not omnipotent. We sometimes tend to think that because they're non-physical entities and they have an expanded perspective or knowledge that we don't have, that they can do anything and everything. This is not exactly the case. Yes, there's a pool of resources and we can ask for different kinds of help, but that doesn't mean that they're omnipotent, and it doesn't mean that they can always do things for us. We are in charge of this experience. We should not be giving our power away even to our guides, although they usually have our best interest at heart. And we should be the ones using discernment and making our own decisions. And that leads me to my next point in the myth, that they're always good and have our best interest at heart. Usually, most of the time, for most of us, they do. However, sometimes negative entities sneak in and pose as members of our entourage. Maybe we had a little bit too much to drink, or we were under the influence of some other substances, and as much as it's great for us to not ever do this, sometimes in the past many of us may have done this, and that has opened the door for entities like that to sneak in and be now part of our entourage. That doesn't mean that the information they deliver to us is going to be positive for us. And as part of that class that I was talking about that has the meditation, there's an exercise that can help you clear your entourage, or at least scan and see what's going on there, and maybe fire some people, some members from it. Speaking of firing and hiring, can you fire and hire members of your entourage? Absolutely. They do not remain static. It's not like we're born with a set of entourage and when we transition, when we die, and throughout the course of our lives, they stay the same. I mean, sometimes for some people that might be true, but usually there's some sort of in and outs, just like we take jobs and then we switch jobs and we take on another one. Our entourage member might decide that they have accomplished what they came to accomplish, or they have given what they came to give, and they feel like somebody else would be more skilled to guide you further, so they might leave, or you might decide that you want somebody else to join the party. And there's no hard feelings, so to speak. What kinds of things can we recruit our entourage members to do? There's really no limit to that. It could be something very, very simple. For example, the other day I walked into a bookstore and I wanted guidance as to a book that I can pick up for my daughter that she would be interested in reading. I kept walking until my eyes stopped on a really cool book that was really thick, though. It was like 500 pages long, and I said, I don't know. I kind of held it, I looked at it, and I said, well, I'm gonna follow the guidance, I'm going to get it, and if she doesn't like it, it's fine. It turns out it was a series of books that was maybe 8, 9, or 10 books. Well, she read the 500 pages in no time, absolutely loved the book, and asked me to buy her more. I have asked for a specific member of my entourage to join when I had to create my website, because I have always given it as an example. That's something that I would suck at and I would not be able to do, but I ended up in a situation where I had to do it. So I said, can I please have a member of my entourage who's good at that stuff and can sort of intuitively guide me to figure out a lot of the things on my own. I can find someone to help me with the little things that I couldn't figure out, but I still needed help and assistance figuring out how to do all of that. And guess what? That process was fairly smooth when I got that assistance. Now, when you're done, you can release that that entity, not physical entity, or you can hire another one for different set of skills. Sometimes you can ask your entourage to hold you kind of in a loving, energetic embrace when you're going through some tough emotional experiences. Oftentimes people would ask me, well, can you see my guides and can you see what they look like? But it's very funny, because why are we even interested in that? We're interested in that because as humans, we like to see something very physical. We'd like to see a face, an image, a body, because it's so much easier for us to relate to that. But it's important to understand that our guides come up with a specific physical representation in order to make that communication smoother and easier for us. But they don't necessarily have that, or they don't actually look the way in which they present themselves to us. I had a very funny case when I was doing the meditation. I was connecting with one of my guides, and all of a sudden he shows up as a kind of short, bald, middle-aged guy, or slightly older than me, maybe around 50, for example. And I said, very interesting choice of presentation. Why did you choose to appear to me in that way? And he started laughing, and all of a sudden he flipped into this young, handsome, really, really good looking guy. And I started laughing. He's like, is that better? Do you like this better? And I said, actually, no, that's quite distracting right now, because I don't know that I would be listening to the message, to the thing that you have to say, because this guy is too good looking. Of course, we started laughing about it. And he's like, well, figure out, make up your mind and decide what you want. But it was all in good spirit. Sometimes once I asked one of my guides that I perceive has a very strong female energy to show me what she actually looks like, although she presented as this gorgeous, gorgeous woman. And she turned more into a silhouette that was kind of transparent with iridescent colors, and I still perceived her as extremely, extremely beautiful, but she didn't feel solid. I could see through her, although there were colors, and it was very, very shiny, more like an energy that had some colors and sparkles to it, but it wasn't really a physical representation the way that we're used to seeing that. But what I recommend is not giving your power away and really doing your own part in connecting with your guides, because they would love nothing more than to have that clear communication with you. When I personally deliver information from someone's entourage, yes, it's my preference that they take the advice and they listen to it, but I usually try not to have an attachment to that result. My job, and the thing that I agree to do, is to deliver that message to them, because they are the ultimate choice makers and the authority of their experience and what they choose to integrate into their lives and not. And so are you. But if you do need assistance in connecting with your guides and learning how to do that, or establishing that communication system, book a session at askmilena.com. Remember to subscribe to my newsletter for more messages from your guides. I'm just kidding about that one. You're perfectly capable of getting them on your own. And remember to subscribe to my channel if you have not done so below, and click on the bell so that you can get notified of all future videos which come out on Friday. I'll see you next week, guys. Bye bye.